With Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you drive along in your truck or your car or on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about, I guess, two things. One is the number of illiterate peasants and totally unproductive, unnecessary, unwanted, useless, worse than useless workers that are being imported into the West and in Australia in this instance, but also the explosion in a number of jobs that are being created. They're artificial, unwanted, unneeded, unproductive jobs, specially made for parasites to be employed. And so we're getting hit from two sides here, not only parasites holding jobs that otherwise productive people should be holding, but also the number of jobs to employ these people and give them somewhere to go is also exploding in numbers as well. So now I see this as, as I mentioned many times, I've got a share in the business, and I've been taking a more active role recently. When I say recently, over the last 12 months or so, really because I want to have a front row seat and get close up to see what's going on in the business world, because it's certainly changing from years ago, and I want to get close to it to get a better look so I can do these videos. But it's a couple of just before I get onto that, I wanted to talk about this so-called shortage of skills that allegedly exists. It doesn't exist. It's made up nonsense it's just another globalist bullshit talking point. It's a lie. Let's call it what it is. Now, I was talking to a CEO a little while ago, and he said he was going to go out to look for your classic sort of rocket scientist sort of guy, a million PhDs and an expert in designing the next rocket to the moon. So he wanted to hire one of these guys, but he was sort of thinking that maybe he was going to have to go to some high-powered international consultant like Egon Zehnder or something like that to find somebody, because he thought they'd be that difficult to find, because there's not that many people in the whole world who meet this skill set. But Australia wants to be a bit of a player in the space race, as it were. So anyway, he's going to get. So he puts out an advert on on one of the biggest job board in Australia, internet online job board. And I didn't really think much more about it. I saw him again. We were sitting in having a coffee, and he said that he got a very good response to the advert. And so I thought that might mean, given that there's again not many people in the whole world, I thought that might mean that he got 4 or 5 people or something, or 3. If you can get one person who's qualified in that field, then you're doing all right. So he said, no, he got 24 or 25, I think it was. 24, I'm pretty sure he said. So I thought, wow, 20. So that I expected him then to say, well, they were all from other countries, from America or somewhere, or the people that applied were all extremely optimistic in their assessment of their own capabilities. I thought that would, but he assured me no, that really pretty much everyone who'd applied was well qualified enough that he would seriously consider them for the job. So he was spoiled for choice in his view. He had so many applicants that he was. Now, remember, this is not only we told Australia by the government, not only we told that Australia has a skill shortage, but we're critically short of these sort of rocket scientist type skills. But he's getting 25 applications of people who are living in Australia who meet the criteria, at least as he saw it, meet the criteria for the job. So this is quite different from a skill shortage. In other words, there's an absolute abundance of the skills that you think would be in critically short supply worldwide, but actually it's not the case. And to me, that just indicates the fact that this nonsense about skill shortage is utter and total crap. And in my mind, this goes some way to confirming that view. But I wanted to talk particularly about the bringing in of millions of illiterate peasants to Australia from the third world, and then, as I mentioned earlier, the creation of jobs that aren't needed to give these folks a place to work. Indians are the ones from the people from the subcontinent, particularly. There's vast numbers of jobs being created just to put them in, and involves them doing nothing productive, which probably suits them. But I wanted to talk about just illustrating the point here and how I come across it. And whilst this is my own direct experience, it illustrates, I think, usefully, clearly illustrates the point. Now, there was a subcontract type tender. So it's not directly with the government, but it's through a master or a head contractor, and they've got a sort of particular body or work package to be done. And we spotted it and thought, yeah, we can do that. And because of the circumstance of moving teams of people around and what we would need people for the following projects, we could do this one quite cheap, so quite a bit below what you would normally expect to pay for this work, and it's reasonably knowledge intensive type work, so it's not something anyone can do. And so we put and it wasn't vast, it wasn't like a huge proposal we had to spend 100 years on. So we put the business proposal together in response to this tender request. And I was reviewing it with one of my colleagues, and I was going, yep, that's fine, send that. So he did it while I was there. So we're sitting next to each other. He sent it while I was sitting there, and the tender's got 2 or 3 days to close before it closes. So we're getting in a bit early there. Now, we thought it was pretty good. We didn't do a vast amount of work on it, but we thought it was pretty good, particularly the price. And we were supremely confident we would get the business. And given it wasn't highly profitable, it's something that if we didn't get it, it wasn't the end of the world. And it just suited us for logistical reasons that were unique to the situation we were in at the time. So he pressed the send button and off it went. And within a microsecond, the response came back from the guy saying, we have exhaustively examined your response and it doesn't meet our requirements. Now, of course, that's utterly impossible. That was a pre-programmed thing ready to respond to anything that was sent in. So we navigated through it and found that they'd made the decision internally to award the contract before they even called the tender. They'd made the decision to award it to an all-female lesbian majority business that has no capacity to do this work at all. So they in turn have to subcontract it out. So the point here was that they were prepared to engage in elaborate deceptions. Why call a tender when you've already awarded it? They fucked up by having this automatic response to say you didn't make it. Now, if they'd done it the previous day or had taken a few days, I probably would have accepted, oh, well, someone's put in a better tender, if that's the case. But because it came back in a microsecond, the whole thing was predetermined and pre-programmed, so that they didn't examine or anything, that they weren't prepared to even consider any other tenders. And so they'd already decided to give it to this all-female-owned lesbian majority business, and they in turn have to subcontract it out themselves because they don't have the capacity to do it. So I just want to go through a number of things here. In the first instance, they've engaged in what I believe to be deceptive practices. They're not prepared to accept that the best value or the lowest price or the best quality work, that's not even relevant. They've decided to make an ideological decision in what should be a business decision. So this is pure ideology. Hey, we're going to give it to these lesbians. White, the lesbians are white, by the way, not black. While pretending that it's all above board and it's all competitive, when in fact it's nothing of the sort. Now, because of this deception, they're giving it to people that can't possibly do the work, and they haven't. So these people want to make 25% on top. So you're paying the market price plus 25% and giving it to people who can't do it, can't do the work. So, the reviewing and the checking is going to have to be pretty intense. There's going to be another layer of work that someone's going to have to do, and those people again, they can't do it. Now, we were also concerned about our time being wasted. We could have put that time into something else, and so they willfully and deceitfully, and I would argue treacherously, put us in a position where we waste our time. Now, the idea they can come back and say, we didn't have to go for it. No, fuck off. That's not the point. You're saying it's a competitive tender, and it's not. You're saying you're going to award the tender based on the best quality service and price. You're not doing that. You're doing the complete. It's not competitive, and you're not awarding it on the basis of what should be a merit-based system. Now, we went into, as we began our investigations, and again, if they'd waited a few days, I would have accepted it. So, well, they found something better, walked away. It's only because that we got the response immediately that I realised that the whole thing was probably, and it was unlikely it was going to be otherwise, the whole thing was a predetermined setup, a scam, in other words. So anyway, we went to do some investigation, and the administration officer handling these things is a lady, probably 20 years old, I would guess, from a third world country. Hasn't been in Australia that long, so her English is barely good enough. It's probably to the standard of maybe a first year primary school, perhaps not even that. So say the standard of a 5-year-old, that type of level of English. Now, she's from a third world country, and she's not bright to boot. Sometimes you can cut people slack saying, well, they don't speak English that well, they're inexperienced, but there's something really bright about them. There's this desire to do well, to learn, to improve themselves. And so this girl had none of that. She had, the only attitude she had was one of entitlement, where she's entitled to this job and entitled to handouts and so on. So what her job is unclear. It's she's got the power to say no, as far as we can tell, but no power to say yes or actually deal with any issues or actually answer questions. Why would they have created a job like this, and why would they put somebody like that in it? They've put someone in who has no comprehension of the work that's none, not even the minimal comprehension of the work to be done. Her English again is abysmal, and she's moronic to boot and entitled. And now, what is anyone to believe they couldn't have possibly hired someone who could speak English? They couldn't have hired someone who at least had some knowledge of the issues and competent or some experience. So, are you saying they couldn't have done that? That's nonsense. That's bullshit. This is just an affirmative action quota hire. They've got to get a brown female in there. So then they've stuck her in this. I mean, couldn't they have stuck her in the back room? Couldn't they have put her sweeping the floor or something, just keep her out of the way? But she's now got to deal with people every day that speak English, that have business issues that they need to talk about, and yet they put her in the job. So finally, and most reluctantly, by the way, she decided that, well, she couldn't actually deal with it and answer the questions or even comprehend it. And she comes from a third world sort of country where it's an embarrassment to admit you don't know. So they're very reluctant to admit you don't know. And they think any evasion, any lie, any deceit, any denial is preferable just to admitting. So, look, I don't know. I'll pass it on to my boss, or I'll ask one of my colleagues, or something. But no, they have to rigidly, doggedly hang on to the issue while refusing at the same time to deal with it. Anyway, we eventually got kicked upstairs to the boss. Now, the boss also is affirmative action hire, a brown guy with, again, no expertise. Now, he's supposed to be in charge of, tenders and tender awarding and all that sort of thing. So it's a reasonably, it's not an executive level role, but it's a reasonably senior role. And so you'd think there'd be some competence there, but he's also from a third world country and doesn't speak English. Minimally speaks English, and slightly better than her, but not much. And so I thought, okay, the whole thing's lost now. I'm wasting, we're just wasting our time even investigating this. We might as well stay on good terms with these people for another day. So I just stopped the investigation and just thought I'll chat to the guy, and one of my colleagues was with me, and I'll just chat to me, have a little chatty thing, and do a lot of smiling and nodding and agreeing, and just get him to talk, which was the purpose, I guess, of it at that point. Now he says he's been brought out to Australia as a skilled migrant. Holy crap, a skilled migrant! Wow, okay, wow. So straight away, my antenna is up, and I'm wanting to get the details, the gory details of this. And he goes from the third world country. Somehow he gets some sort of, I don't know whether it was a refugee thing or not. It's a bit hard to say, but he gets to England for a while. His refugee or asylum claim or whatever he's doing there gets rejected, but not a problem. He says, I'll just apply to Australia for. Now, while he's in England, he is able to do a degree or a diploma in journalism. And they let him do it in his native language. What the fuck use that is, I don't know. So he does that, and as I understand it anyway, the way he was talking, the British taxpayer picked up the tab for this illegal guy to do his diploma in journalism. Anyway, because he's got a diploma in journalism, he can claim to be a skilled migrant, and somehow he manages to wangle and bullshit his way into Australia as a skilled migrant. Now, I asked him, what has he done any work ever in his life? And he's delivered a few pizzas, and he's been like a tele-sales operator or something like that. How he did that, given his quality of English, I was beyond me. But anyway, he somehow wangles it to come into Australia as a skilled migrant. So now here's a guy who's never actually worked. He's just delivered pizzas, effectively. That's been his only employment. And somehow this large engineering firm that relies 100% on government contracts decides to hire this. So the way I understood the way he was talking was that this company may even have sponsored him. So they've sponsored a guy that barely speaks English, who's got a degree in journalism, which he got in another language anyway, and his only work experience is delivering pizzas. And they put him as the senior administration officer in the awarding of engineering tenders in this company. I mean, you've got to be kidding me, right? But that's not unusual. That's close to typical now of any organization that is primarily reliant or completely, as these guys are, completely reliant on government contracts. And these contracts are awarded in cozy deals. That's something done in the back room, that they're able to make massive profits. But in return, the government's saying, Western governments, this is saying, okay, you have to bring in a shitload of brown and black peasants from the third world. Now, this guy, again, he's no genius, far from it. I don't think, well, he can't be illiterate, I guess, if he got the diploma, but nothing would surprise me anymore when it comes to affirmative action and the like. So this guy and the girl that reports to him, or the young woman that reports to him, the two of them can barely speak English, have no relevant experience, qualifications, credentials, or anything at all that justifies them getting the job. Now, you need to look at this, that I think these jobs have been pretty much created. They could have been handled by any of the engineers or anyone on the team. So I think they've just created these jobs just so they can employ people just like this. But it almost doesn't matter whether they're passing over. And to fill these jobs with those people, they've willfully and deliberately and intentionally passed over people that can't speak English, and the people that could have filled these jobs and done a decent job of it and have relevant experience or at least the capabilities and so on. And you don't come with such an entitled fucking attitude. All the guy could do is come out with pithy little sayings and one-line utterances we just kept repeating that I don't think he even understands himself. So when we multiply this across all the businesses of Australia and indeed the Western world, we've got tens of millions of jobs that have been created just to employ people like that. And people who could do the job are being passed over in favour of these people. So the local people are being denied employment. We've got diversity means anti-white hiring practices. Let's call it what it is. And but it's not that these people are unproductive and useless, which they are, and parasites, which they are, and useless, which they are. but it's the cost to us all to create. These jobs they're creating just to employ these people. This is coming in the price that this company is being allowed to charge by the government for things like, say, public infrastructure. So instead of paying, I'll use round numbers here. Instead of paying $1 million to build the bridge, we have to pay. The taxpayer has to pay $2 million to build the bridge, simply because the other $1 million is being frittered away and pissed up against the wall in hiring illiterate peasants from the third world and creating unneeded jobs and positions and places for them. And this comes at terrible cost to the Western world, not only in productivity, which is obviously going through the floor, but in the additional cost. All this is effective. I mean, it's not effective. It is an additional tax on all business transactions and on our life, and with our standard of living being reduced, it is a tax on all of us, a regressive tax on all, which produces and achieves nothing. You've been with Tassus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.